I finally have been given early access to 1.9.5, and it's time to kick it off by checking out the brand new map. So this new map is called the Great Carrier Reef, and it's dubbed that because it has 2 aircraft carriers on each side of the map. Not only does it have 2 aircraft carriers, it also has a helipad and a massive runway. It's just perfect to do combat in the air, sea, and also under the sea, because there's also textures and terrain. It's definitely giving Skull Island vibes for me personally, with all the jagged rocks in the ocean. And of course, with palm trees and sandy beaches and little islands, I'm inclined to say this is definitely a tropical map. But let's talk about the main feature here, the brand new runway. I think this is probably the most hyped thing for a map, just having a runway in general that's longer than the ones we get on the carrier. This runway is super nice. You can take off in pretty much any size build here. I'm taking off in this cargo plane that I made, and yeah, look how beautiful that feels. It just is perfect for taking off. And because it is a brand new sandbox map, we also get a bunch of spawn points. So there's 2 spawn points at each aircraft carrier, 1 on top of the carrier and 1 in the water by the side of the carrier. There's 4 spawn points on the main island, 2 on the sandy areas from the west and the east side, 1 on the helipad, and of course 1 on the big runway. It's also nice to see that these aircraft carriers are customized. They're actually different colors than what we're used to seeing. There's 1 in blue and there's 1 in red. So you could do teamed combat, red team versus blue team. But yeah, that pretty much concludes my explanation of the new Great Carrier Reef map. I don't know if I missed anything, but when you guys get this map, you'll definitely find whatever I missed. There's probably some Easter eggs around here somewhere. But let's take a look at the new blocks we have installed for us in 1.9.5. So everything I'm about to show you in this segment is actually free. It is a free community update. And if we go into the mechanics tab, all the way at the back is the brand new aiming servo. It weighs 5 kg, and essentially what it does is aim towards where your camera is pointing. So here's this little build here with the aiming servo on. Let's put a weapon on. So for example, if I wanted a minigun, I'll just place it on the top part of the aiming servo. You can see that the aiming servo itself is pretty detailed. It also has this big like white light, and that's actually the front indicator. So that's the forward position where it will be pointing towards the camera with. So if I spawn this in, you can see almost immediately wherever I look, left and right, it will turn in that direction. And that is incredible. This is a block we've sorely needed in Trailmakers for a very long time. However, because it is a servo, I am inclined to say that it only works in its respective dimensions. So that means right now with the disc here, it can only go pivot left and right. If I wanted it to aim up and down, I would need to add an additional aiming servo. So if I put my minigun on the servo like this, spawn it in, you can see how I can also aim up and down with the servo as well as left and right. And there is a bunch of configuration options with these as well. Their default settings are the speed at a value of 1, the left angle. Yes, you can actually change how far they turn on separate angles, so left and right. So the default setting is 120 as well as the right angle, and the strength obviously at 100%. We do have some cool options here. Hold position. So if you wanted to hold position, I can aim the servo, and then when I press space, it will stay in the position I leave it in. If I didn't have hold position selected, when I press space, it will go back into the default position that it will be in when you spawn it in the build mode. Very handy indeed. And just like with any functional block, it has a toggleable setting, and you can pretty much keybind it with anything. And there's a bunch of settings. Personally, I like to put my aiming servos at 2.0, 180 angle on each, and that just means this thing can now look everywhere, and it's really fast too. So it's like really responsive. Look. But that's everything with the new aiming servo. Let's check out some other free blocks we get with 1.9.5. So if we go into the frame pieces and scroll all the way to the back, we have 4 brand new pieces here. The bulky air intake, the fighter air intake, the propeller air intake, and the rounded air intake. So that's 4 brand new blocks that are supposed to be intakes. They all have a different weight. So this one's 10 kg. Well, actually, these two are the same. 10 kg for both of these. This one's 8.1 kg. And this one is 9 kg. It's very interesting how these are a little different. So they're quite heavy, but not too heavy. They're about the weight of a 4x8 block. And if you use them how they're supposed to be used, if we go into aerodynamics, you can also see that they are fully like green with the arrows. They're fully aerodynamic capable. There's no yellow here. It's all perfect for your flying vehicle. Then again, you don't need to use them how they're supposed to be used. You can use them in any way imaginable. These are just pretty cool blocks to have. They're really detailed, really fun, and will bring a lot of life to your builds. Here's an example of a propeller plane that I made with the propeller air intake. Looks really nice and sweet. It's just literally perfect for this particular design. Here's 3 more builds using the rest of the air intake. So this is actually a template vehicle. So this one's using the rounded air intakes, and you can see how that looks very pretty. This one's using the bulky air intakes, and you can see how this makes it definitely look a little bit more menacing. I think these ones are definitely more industrial. And finally, on this plane, it's actually trying to get away from me right now. This one's using the fighter air intake, so more squared off intake, like reminiscent of a F-14, I suppose. Yeah, they all look super nice. Not only that, we get some new blocks, we also get some new logic. So if we go into the logic category, we can find about in the middle here of the bar 3 brand new logic blocks: the function logic block, the aggregate logic block, and the randomizer logic block. I'm not gonna go into like detail on how these specific blocks work. I mean, the randomizer block's pretty self-explanatory. It just randomizes an output. But this definitely changes how logic will be perceived in this game forever, I think. This has to be some of the greatest changes to logic. Not only do we get 3 new blocks, we also get a bunch of new settings in our already existing sensor block. So here is a distance sensor, and you can see it has a red dot on now. I guess that's just the invisible laser it emits to detect the range. If you go into the configuration settings, there is some new modes. So trigger is actually its default. So if it detects something within 1 meter range, it will just trigger 100% output. We also have measure. So this will actually detect the precise measurement, like distance. And normalize, I can't remember what this one actually is, but if any of you logic guys know, then definitely let me know in the comments below. And I'm sure you guys have noticed already there is some new visualizations going on in this game. So the first one to address is the brand new wiring, like the brand new visualization of all of the connections. Damn, that is a lot of connections on. I didn't realize how many connections my spaceship has. That is complex. Wow. But yeah, with these brand new visualizations, it essentially allows you to see what is happening, what connections going where. You can actually see the arrows move across the screen. This build, for example, is way too hectic, so let's pull out a more simple build. So here's this car I made. If I go into the configuration, yeah, there we go. That's a lot more bearable. You can actually see all of the inner workings and connections going on with all the like configurations and logic. Cool. That is super handy to have in the game. The next visualization change is actually what I'm already sitting on. That is the brand new spawn point. Look at this. This is very nice. It's like less obtrusive. It used to be where you had these green like squares going through your build and stuff, but now the spawn points are literally this little square ring around. It's so clean. I really appreciate it. Just looks super nice. And lastly, we also have some new visualizations for block damage in the game. So I'm gonna take this car and drive it very, very fast into a tree or something. Oh, okay, that works too. And you can see with the new damage, let me actually go back into the sunlight here. Yeah, so it kind of looks like things have been chipped away. It's less of the orange glow that it does and more of this like paint chip and scratches and dinged up marks and stuff. I definitely prefer this. It's less of a giant glowing brick every time you crash into something. This is definitely more visually pleasing. I just thought of something. Not only is this runway good for taking off and landing, drag races could be pretty cool on here too. All right, I'm gonna try and crash a little harder this time. Oh, there we go. All right, yeah, I just completely destroyed the front end of my car. So now you can see it is a little bit more damaged. This is probably critical breaking point now for these blocks. These are on their last bit of health, and you can see how much the glow actually breaks through. So we still get the glowing texture. It's just it's at stages. So at the back of the car here, there's like little to none damage, and then it goes on to more and more scratches and dings, and then it starts glowing until it's like this and things are on fire. And apparently the wheels get a nice new damage texture. Wow, didn't notice that. Here's definitely a really cool honorable mention. We now get the option to keybind things to the right mouse button. Yes, it's finally an option. I don't know why it never was, but now it is, and it's really nice to have. You can just use it as an additional keybind. This was possible if you had a controller hooked up to your PC, but now you can just access it and not have to do it with a controller and stuff. So yeah, really much appreciated. As well as getting a free update for 1.9.5, we also get a paid DLC, and that is some brand new block textures. So we get 8 of them in total, starting off with the digital camo. This is a really nice digital pixel look for a camo. Really cool. Almost gives me like Minecraft vibes personally. Next, we have the graffiti. I definitely think this is one of the cooler textures. And I just love how, like, no matter your orientation, everything still lines up. So if I move this, it will still level out and everything will match up for the textures. Next, we have another personal favorite of mine they've added, and that is pipes. These are some of the coolest textures because these actually have some kind of weird light aesthetic going on. Even though this is a flat surface, you can literally see this is a flat surface. There's no bumps coming out. It's just an optical illusion from like the top. So if you look at the top of the pipes here on the texture, it lights up the top highlight of the pipe, and if you do the same by looking on below, it lights up the bottom, and it just gives this really cool 3D look even though it's not 3D. A really impressive texture. Next we have gears. This is Scrapman's favorite because he loves gears. And yeah, it's the same thing with how like they've done the light. It will just make it appear 3D. Very aesthetic and very clean. Next, we have the metal plates. These are cool. I've actually used this quite a bit now in some builds I've done off camera, just testing the early access. And it just looks really good for like metal plates. Yeah, it's exactly what it's intended for, metal plates. We also have rust. So if anybody's making some rusty old builds that, you know, have been damaged over time and oxidized, then this is the perfect texture for you to do so. Next, we have weathered. So not only do we have rust, we also have weathered. So these blocks have been weathered and corroded a bit, almost looking like stone or concrete. I think this is white textured. Yeah, that's super nice. And finally, we have the geometric pattern. This is just a cool chrome looking pattern where you can actually change the different colors look. I think this is a very pretty texture as well. Okay, well, that's pretty much everything to do with 1.9.5. A really fun little update with a brand new map, some brand new blocks, and a new DLC skin pack. Let me know down in the comments below, what is your favorite part of this update? What are you looking forward to the most? I put my money on the aiming servo, right? It's gotta be the aiming servo. As for a date for when this releases, I actually don't know, but as of time of recording this, I believe some point in December is when we get the public release for 1.9.5, and it is a free update, so you don't need to pay for this unless you're paying for the new skin pack, of course. But yeah, guys, I hope you liked my video showcasing everything new to Trailmakers 1.9.5. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.